All right. Good evening. Tonight we're learning Maseches Shabbos Daf Kuf Yud. Tonight's Gemara is going to speak about snakes. Tonight's Gemara is going to speak about a zava. And tonight's Gemara is also going to speak about one other topic that we're going to plow through, which is, what was it again? I forgot already. We'll get there tonight. I can't even remember. A bunch of unique Gemaras about the medical world and how we interact with snakes, how we help to control some aspects of the medical world. So we're going to get started on the bottom of Kuf Tes Amud Beis. We are, let's see where we are here. Haiman Debala. We're 7 lines up from the bottom approximately. First word on the line is Bein Legiluya, and about 5 words in, it says Haiman Debala Chivya, someone who swallows a snake. How is that possible? Good question. Someone who swallows a snake. Luchlek Shusa, he should eat hops b'milcha that have been salted. V'lir hatei tlasamili, and he should run 3 meal. Okay. Rav Simi Barashi chazi lahu gavra debala chivya. Rav Simi Barashi saw a man who actually swallowed a snake. Idmile kiparsha, he dressed himself up like someone who would ride a horse. Ochlek shusa, he forced him to eat hops b'milcha that had been salted. Ve'ar hatein, he made sure that he ran kameh in front of him tlasamile. He ran 3 meal in front of him. V'nafak mine guve guve, and piece by piece, the snake came out of his mouth. Miraculous. Ikadamri, some say the story was a little bit different, 4 lines from the bottom. Rav Simi Bar Ashi, he himself swallowed a snake. Asa Eliyahu Navi came, and Idme Le Kiparsha, and he showed up like a person who rides a horse. Ochle Kishusa b'milcha, and he forced him to eat salted hops. The Arhatain made sure that he ran Kameh in front of Eliyahu, made sure that Rav Simi Barashi ran Tzlasa Mile, Benafak Mine Gove Gove, and here too, the snake exited the body in pieces. Haiman de Tarke Chivya, someone who gets bitten by a snake, something that's a little bit more prevalent. Lacey Ubra de Chamra, this part's not so prevalent. You should take the fetus of a Chamra Chibrasa, of a white donkey, Relikre, and you should open it up, you should tear it open. Velose Iluya, and you should put it on the bite mark, where the snake bite is. Hanimili delo ishtakach trefa. This is only true, however, if the animal is not a trefa. And in fact, the Gemara now tells a story how Hu bar kasha de pumpadisa. Rashi says Dibur Amaschil bar kasha, first on the page, Memuna lemelech. He was appointed by the king, and this person, the Tarke Chavya, he was bitten by a snake, and he wanted to use the solution of the Chachamim, which is to go find a white donkey and find a fetus therein and put it on the snake bite. So Havatzleisar Chamre Chibrasa the Pumpadisa, there were 13 white donkeys in the city of Pumpadisa. The Meforshim here point out that this number is Lav Dafka. It wasn't meant to be specific, it's an approximation. And Karinhu Lakulhu, he whatever fetuses were there, he took advantage of those fetuses. However, the Ishtakhu Trefa, all of them were found to be Trefa Havai. Havai Chada Be'ahugi, so there was one on the other side of the Pumpadisa. There was one animal left, one white donkey that he had yet to check. So he was just on his way there. And Ad Azle Maisila, until they could get it to him, Ochla Arye, a lion ate that animal and killed it, and therefore was no longer viable. So now this person is left to die. He has a snake bite. And the approach that the Chachamim said, this intervention that the Chachamim said, wasn't available to him. So says the Gemara, 5 lines down on Daf Kuf Yud, Amar Aleph, Amar Lahu Abaye, Dilma Chivya, to Rabbanan Tarke, to Lesle Asusa. Maybe this snake bite is because of the Rabbanan, because of the rabbis, because he broke the words of the rabbis, and therefore he was bit, and nothing can save him. Even if he would have found this animal, nothing would have saved him. How so? Because a famous pasuk that we know about, this pasuk is written in Koheles, and the pasuk reads, "Uporetz geder yishchenu nachash." Poretz geder yishchenu nachash is not only halachic in nature, but it's a bit of a catchphrase. That means that you are violating an Isur D'Rabbanan. So maybe this person violated a rabbinic injunction of the Chachamim, and he was therefore bit by a snake, literally, Poretz geder yishchenu nachash, that he deserves the punishment of death for having violated the shita of the particular Chachamim of that time. So says the Gemara, Amrulay, they said back to him, and they said back to Abai, in Rabbi, you're correct. When Rav died, people were so sad that they made a particular gzero when Rav died. Gazar Rav Yitzchak bar Bizna the leka de limtia asava gidme lebehilula. You could not bring myrtle and other celebratory types of items to a party, betablo and a bell. The azalihu, and this person who got bit by the snake, amte asava gidme lebehilula betablo, and he brought these things that you should not bring. So he directly violated the rabbinic injunction that was put into place after Rav died, and he paid the ultimate price. Tarke chivya v'mis, and then he got bit by a snake and he died. This raises an interesting issue about what's the status of dinei derabanan. How can you have a chiyuv misa for a din derabanan? So there are some mefarshim that point out that we have, and this is a little subtle, that we have a din de oraisa to follow dinei derabanan, because the pasuk says in Sefer Dvarim, and it's actually in my bar mitzvah parsha, al pia Torah asher yarucha v'al mishpat asher yaselecha lo sasur min hadavar yaminu small, something along those lines. I think I mixed up part of the pasuk there, but lo sasur min hadavar yaminu small, that you should not deviate right and left from what the chachamim say. So some of the meforshim point out that we have a din de oraisa pasuk in Dvarim to follow the dinim of the rabbanon. So therefore, what would result is that an Isser Derabanan is more severe in halachic grounds than an Isser Deraisa, because the Isser Derabanan includes both a rabbinic injunction and a biblical injunction, whereas a biblical violation only includes one. So maybe that's some of the lumdas here as to how he could be punished like this. Next, about a quarter of the way down, Haiman de Karche Chivya, someone who has a snake wrapping around them, a constrictor. Linchos lamai, should go down to the water with a basket. V'lischov tikula areshe, you should put a basket on your head. Maybe the snake will switch from you to the basket as he gets close to the person's head. Ulahad kemine, and it'll attach to the basket. V'chisalik, and when the snake is no longer on you and it's attached to the basket, v'chisalik iluya, lishtiye lamaya, you should throw the basket with the snake in the water. V'lislok v'leise, and you should throw it away quickly, and you should run out of the water. Haiman de mikne bechivya, what if a snake is showing some kas, he's showing some anger toward you? So i'ika chavre bahadei, if you are traveling with a person, so that person should pick you up. Lirkeve arba garmide, should carry you for a distance of 4 garmide. Rashi here explains what's going on, that they assumed at the time that snakes track your feet. And if they would pick you up off the ground, maybe he would lose your scent. So that's what was happening here. V'ilo, if you don't have that as a solution for someone to pick you up, lishoar nagra, you should jump over a ditch. V'ilo le'avar nara, and if not, you should you should swim through some water. Snakes don't travel as well as water, in the water. Uvalelia, 1/3 of the way down, what should you do at night if you're afraid about snakes? Losve Lepuria arba chavisa. You should rest your bed on top of 4 barrels. Raise your bed up a little bit. The nigne be kochve, and you should sleep under the stars so that no snake can kind of fall off the lights hanging on the ceiling or from the roof. Velese dalad shunre. You should get 4 cats. Velisrinhu be'arba kare depurye, and you should tie them to the 4 feet of the bed. Velese shachve. You should get some twigs. Velishte hasam, and throw them, sprinkle them around the bed. And this was a practical tool so that if the snakes were to come, you'd hear them. That when the cats, which were attached to the corners of the bed, would hear the snake that's crackling over the twigs, and you hear the twigs breaking, so then the snakes will be eaten by the cats. Haiman deraita basrei, if the snake's not showing a lot of anger, but he is following you, what should you do? Lirhat bechalsa, you should go into sand, because snakes don't really travel well in sand. There are some snakes, I don't know the names of them, they actually travel better in sand than on regular ground, but for snakes that don't, then the sand will slow them down, because as they move, as they slither, the sand moves as well. Now we're going to learn a Gemara that's very unique about the interplay between a human being and a snake. This is reminiscent of conversations of whether or not the Nachash in the times of Breshis was interested to be intimate with Chava. Says the Gemara about halfway down, if a woman were to see a snake, and she did not know if the snake was showing intimate interest in her, so what should she do? She should take off one of the garments she's wearing, and she should put it on the ground. If the snake enwraps itself in her clothing that she put on the ground, then daite iluya. Ve'ilo lo. lo yav daiti luya. Then if the snake isn't wrapping itself in her clothing, then that indicates that he does have this strange intimate desire for someone that's not his own species. My takante, very strange Gemara. My takante, what is the solution to make sure that the snake stays away from her? The husband and wife should be mishamesh mitasa. To shamesh kame, Rashi says husband and wife should be mishamesh mitasa. And that way, if she's mishamesh mitasa, if she's intimate with her husband, then the snake won't be interested. The snake will think that she's unavailable. Some say that that's not the way to go, that the tashma shamita could cause a problem. Kol shekain the takif layitzrei. If the snake were to be exposed to such an episode, that would cause for an increase of yetzer hara. Ella, what should happen? She should instead tishkol mimaze mitufra. She should take some of her hair and some of her nails, v'tishtebe, and throw the hair and nails toward the snake. V'tema dishtana ana. Dishtana ana means I am a nida. And the Meforshim here point out that she's not conversing with the snake. What she's doing is basically saying an incantation of some kind. This does raise, I would say, only by extrapolation, of course. This is not halacha l'maisa, but what is halacha l'maisa is when is a couple allowed to be intimate in the presence of others? Typically speaking, the answer is never. The one exception to that rule is a child who does not yet speak. So if you have a little baby in the room, so then there's no prohibition of a couple being intimate. But any child who's of the age of speaking, it's not that old, whatever the age is, then that is going to then be problematic if the person's sleeping in the room. These are all shilas in the poskim. So just raising it here because the Gemara, in granted another frame and in a unique frame, speaks about tashma shemita in front of another living being. Let's continue the Gemara here, as it continues to get still more unique. If back in the day, and a lot of Hilchos Nida is different because of this nowadays, back in the day, women did not wear tightly fitting undergarments. So if you look through the sugyas in Maseches Nida, and certainly in the Shulchan Aruch, I'll just give you a sampling, which is that a woman who might find blood be'akeva on her ankle, so then is she a nida, is she not a nida? What does it mean be'akeva on her ankle? So if a woman were to sit Indian style and she was not wearing a covering between, as an undergarment, then there could be blood on her ankle, which is representative of her reaching her menstrual period, of becoming a nida. So under these circumstances, the women were not wearing the standard undergarments that we're familiar with. And if there is a snake that entered into a person, entered into a woman, lifsea, she should walk, atarte chavisa. They should place her on top of 2 barrels. Velese bisra shmena. They should get some flavorful meat. Velishte agumre. And they should put it on coals to make the smell intriguing for the snake to leave her body. Velese agana de sachle. They should also get some cress, which apparently was a food that snakes ate. Bechamra rechtana, a nice smelling wine. Vilosva hasam. And they should put it beneath her, velitru kinhu behade hadade, mix them up together, velinkot sav sabiyada, and she should put some type of grasper in her hands. First of the longest lines here, meirach recha, that when the snake smells food that he's otherwise attracted to, nafik ve'asi, he'll leave her body to some degree, velishkale velikle, Benura, and she can grasp the animal with this tongue, with this grasper, and just move him straight into the fire. Ilo hadar iluha, because without killing it, the animal would then return back to where he was before, inside the woman's body. Okay. Second of the widest lines here, kol ha'ochlin. The Mishnah pointed out that all foods that are normally foods are allowed to be eaten. And as we know, as a general rule, whenever the Mishnah says the word kol, it is an inclusive language. So let's see what the inclusive language is. Hakol la'asuye mai, la'asuye tchol, l'shinaim, to eat spleen for one's teeth. Spleen is a food that apparently was eaten on the regular to some degree. And one would then be allowed to do so to make their teeth feel better. They couldn't take Tylenol. Can't regularly take medicine on Shabbos unless you're nafal l'mishkav. This is Siman Shin Kaf Ches and Shulchan Aruch and Orach Chaim Hilchos Shabbos, that one should avoid taking medications on Shabbos if they are not nafal l'mishkav, if they're not going to be so sick. However, one is allowed to do so preventatively. So if you know that without taking medicine, then you'll be nafal l'mishkav, you're going to be so sick that you have to lie down, then it's permissible then to take the medication again as a preventative measure. But here, the tchol is a regular food for teeth. Karshin and leeks, livnei me'ayin, for your stomach. Kol mashkin, when the Mishnah says that you can drink any liquids, what does that mean? Kol hamashkin la'asuye mai, la'asuye meitzlafin b'chometz, taking wood from a caper bush and putting it into vinegar and drinking that, that is what is included. Amar le Ravina le Rava ma'u lishtos me raglayin b'Shabbos. Under pressing duress, what should one do if the only drink they have is urine? They have me raglayim. Amar le Tanina kol hamashkin shosa. You're allowed to drink any drink you want, but this is not a drink. Me raglayim lo shasu inche. That's not a drink. Any drink that's a regular part of, you find in a fridge. So that's permissible. Any drink that's commonplace, but not a drink that isn't commonplace, such as me raglayim. 2 dots, 3/4 of the way down, a little bit more, 10, 12 lines from the bottom. Tana chutz mi me, sorry, skipped a couple of words there. Yeah, no, chutz mi me dekalim. We said in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to drink me dekalim. Tana chutz mi me dekarim. We have another version of our Mishnah, which is me dekarim. The word dekarim leads kor, is to pierce through or to cut through something. This was a very powerful and strong liquid. Man tana me dekarim sheim dokrim es hamara. It's very bad for the gallbladder to drink this drink. Uman de Amar made the kalim sheyotzin. Uman de Amar made the kalim, the one who says that there is water by a dekel. What does that mean? A dekel is a palm tree. There's no water in a palm tree. There's moisture, I guess, but it's not like a source of water. So what's this referring to? Sheyotzin means shnei dekale, that comes out of 2 trees. My made the kalim. What exactly is going on here? What is this with these 2 trees? The water of these trees. Amar Rabba barbarona tarte tilae ika b'ma'arava. There are 2 trees in Eretz Yisrael. The nafka eina de maya mi beinahu, and there is a spring in between the 2 of them. Kasa kama marpe. The first cup of water that you drink will loosen the bowels. Idach mishalshal. The second one will cause you to go to the bathroom. The idach, and the third cup kiheche da'ayle hachinafke. As you drink it, it will exit your body, which means that, in short, these 3 cups will clean out the entire body. The truth is that he said, I have the best solution, which is to drink this Babylonian beer. It works better than everything. However, this is only true if the wine hasn't been drunk within 40 days. Rav Yosef Amar Zeisum HaMitzri, he says, no, but still a better medication is the Zeisum HaMitzri. What are the ingredients of Zeisum HaMitzri? That is a machlokas here in the Gemara. Tilsa sare, according to Rav Yosef, it's 1/3 barley, the tilsa kurtime, saffron, 1/3 saffron, the tilsa milcha, 1/3 salt. Rav Papa argued and said it wasn't barley, but rather amar tilsa chite. It's regular wheat. It's wheat flour. Vitilsa kurtime, vitilsa milcha, the same thirds with the saffron and with the salt. The simanech, how do you remember who holds what? Because Rav Yosef, who says that it was with barley, Yosef and Sare have the same, Sare is barley, have the same letter in them, the S sound, V'simanech sisani. Okay, very good. So the 2 samachs are together, Rav Yosef and Sare. So that's how we remember which Shita said what. Brief mnemonics, a very simple way to remember. The Shasilu, when should you drink it? Bein dabcha la'atzeres, dabcha, dalet, and zayin in Aramaic are interchangeable. Zevach. When we bring the Korban Pesach, the Zevach, when we bring the Korban Pesach, la'atzarta and Shavuos, the kamit marpe, la, if a person is more constipated, it will loosen them up. Udarafi kamit la, and if their bowels are too loose, then it will make them reach the right consistency. It basically was the perfect drink. It helped people, it helped to regulate people. The kos ikrin, what is going on with this kos ikrin? Now, I mentioned yesterday that kos ikrin is a root, is a drink that's based off of a root. But what I did not mention is that it has the potential to make someone infertile. And that's going to be some of the conversation today. My kos ikrin, what is this? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said, Laise maskal zuza koma Alexandria. That's, they would basically take a zuz in weight of this gum from Alexandria. Umaskal zuza gavya gila. This is something called alum or alum. Umaskal zuza kurkuma rishka. This was in a weight of zuz, it was saffron. And you would blend them all together. Now, lizava, for a zava, and we're going to speak about how to help a woman to get out of her zava status. What should she do? So, tlasa bechamra, discussion here of what it is she's doing with this beer. Is she drinking it? Is she mixing in the other ingredients? But let's assume she's drinking it. Tlasa bechamra, it's that she would drink 3 cups of wine. Below mi akra, this would not make her infertile. Lierokna, if she was using it for jaundice, for yarok, so then train b'shichra, then it should be 2 should be 2 cups of wine. Some other Meforshim say you're adding these ingredients to these 2 cups or to these 3 cups, whatever the case may be. Now, going back just one line, the Gemara continues in the next line. It quotes the first part of the statement of the Gemara, that if a woman is a zava, that she should drink these 3 cups of beer, presumably with the ingredients as mentioned, with the gum and with the alum and with the saffron. The elo, what if she does not have that? What should she do? So what she should do, as we turn to the top of Kuf Yud Amud Beis, is laisi tlasa kafize shamke parsai. Kafize is a cup that would hold a certain shear, and that cup would hold Persian onions. Benishlo v'chamra, and she should boil them, chamra's wine. Benashke, and the zava should drink it. V'neimala, and they should say to her, kum mi zovech. It's time for you to get up from being a zava. The elo, and if you don't have those 2 as an option, then here's a third option. What should you do? Losva parashas drachim. You should go to sit at the crossroads. V'linkita kasa dechamra biyad, and she should hold a cup of wine in her hand. V'leisi inish me'achora. Someone should sneak up behind her. V'livate, and they should try to terrify her, scream in her ear. V'leimalei, and they should also say, kumi zavech, it's time to stop having this zava flow. For as long as a woman is a zava, she's not tahora to her husband, and a whole bunch of she's mechusar kapara, a whole bunch of other things that come up in halachic world. So if this third option doesn't work, let's move on to number 4. V'ilo laisi buna de chamona. You should bring a handful of cumin, uvona de morika, a handful of saffron, uvona de shavlilta, a handful of fenugreek, v'nishlok b'chamra. You should boil it in wine. V'nashke, she should drink it, and then there too, v'nei mala kum mizavech. She should drink that as well. Next, if you don't have the 4th one, go to number 5. Some of the Meforshim here point out, why are we going to such lengths? We're not even close to done yet. There's probably 10 options here in the Gemara, and the answer is that maybe the zava was a serious problem. Maybe it was something that was really impacting people's lives. They were a zava for a long time, and they had to get rid of it. So let's keep going. Below, laise shisin shie dedana, 60 shitin, 60 shie are seals, and dana are barrels. V'lishve, and she should smear them on her body. V'leimalei kumi zovech, it's time to stop being a zava. And if that doesn't work, number 6, v'ilo laise pashtina. Pashtina was an herb that grew very close to the ground. V'lishlok b'chamra, you should boil it in wine. V'lishve, and she should wipe it on her body. She should put it all over her body. V'neimalei kumi zovech, and they should say to her again, time for you to stop being a zava. Number 7, v'ilo laisi charnuga de higsa romisa. This was an herb that grew next to a thorn bush that was called a romisa. Bilikle, you should burn it. During the summer, what you would do is take the ashes of what you just burned and put it in linen. And in the winter, you would take it and put it in cotton rags, and she would then wear those garments in order to help remove her zava status. V'ilo, number 8, I think we're up to number 8. Lichra sheva bira, she should dig 7 holes in the ground. Bilikle, she should burn behu shabishta yalda de orla, the vines of an orla tree that cannot be eaten yet. And then what she should do is v'linkata kasa de chamra biyada. Then she should take a cup of wine with her, and she'll alternate. V'lukma meha, she's gonna stand up by one. V'losva aha, v'lukma aha, v'losva aha, alternating. Ve'akol chad v'chad, and every time she gets to one of the, every time she stands up, then leimalei kumi zavech. And then they'd say it's time for you to get rid of your zava status. V'ilo, and if that doesn't work, number 9, laisi smida, she should get some flour. V'liska mi palga l'satoy, and she should put it all over the lower half of her body. Palga is half, tatoy is lower, so the lower half of leimalei kumi zavech. Another one, v'ilo laisi biasa denami, so you should get an ostrich egg readily available. Vilikle, and you should burn it. Vilispa b'shacha ke dechitna b'kaita, in the summer you would take the ashes and put it in linen. Uv'shacha ke de'amar gufna b'sisva, and in the winter you would put it into cotton. All of these were methods, again, to stop a woman from being a zava. Just 2 more, and then we'll go on to some jaundice conversations about yarok. V'ilo liftach lachavisa dechamra lishma. This one we could probably relate to the most. If none of this works, she should open a barrel of wine and drink heavily. This was one of the recommendations that the Gemara makes in regards to a woman getting rid of her zava status. Was it medical? I don't know. Below, and if not, this is the last. I lost count. What is this? 11? I don't even know anymore. Below, and if that's not the case, so then linkit se'arta de mishtachas bekusa de chudna chivra. This is on the grosser end of things. You should get some barley grain that's in the manure of a chamra, of a mule or a donkey that's white. Inaktachad yom paska tre yome. if she can hold on to it in her hand for 1 day, will prevent her from being a zava for 2 days. If she holds it for 2 days, then she won't bleed for 3 days. So we have 10, 11, 12, a whole bunch of recommendations for a woman who is a zava to remove that status. Just a very, very short deviation here, which is to recognize that nowadays, the reason why we have Shev Nikim, why after a woman is in Nida for 5 days, 5+ days, the reason she waits Shev Nikim is not because of Hilchos Nida. As it relates to Hilchos Nida, from the day a woman gets her period, as long as she's not bleeding out after day 7, she can go to the mikvah, midoraisa, technically speaking. But based on the Chumrah of Rabbi Zera, we intersect the bleeding of a zava, which is 3 days of bleeding, with the standard menstrual period of a woman, and therefore we couple them together. So the first 7 days, she's not allowed to go to the mikvah because she's a nida, and even if she doesn't have any more blood. And the chumrah was that even if she saw tipas dam kechardal, even if she didn't see 3 days of blood, we treat her like a zava to go wait a full 7 days of Shev Nikim, doing bedikas on each of those days. So now that we're talking about zava, just referencing it, but today's version of Hilchos Nida is very different than the biblical version of Hilchos Nida. Continuing in the Gemara, what about Yarok? What about a person who has jaundice? Liarkona, trained b'shichro me'aker. We said that if a person had jaundice, then they should take all of those spices we learned before and put it in 2 cups of beer, and it does make someone infertile. If that doesn't work, you should take a fish that was called a shibuta, it's a salted fish. You should put it in beer and boil it and then drink it. If that doesn't work, you should take an extract from locusts, from like grasshoppers and some other kinds of bugs. If you don't have those bugs, then you should take from another type of animal. You should take from a small little bird, an extract from the bird, and that's what you should use. And you should go into a bathhouse. You should put it on your body, this juice. And if you don't have a bathhouse, so then what should you do? You should do it when you're near in a place that's warm, basically. The beibani was hot. So if that doesn't, then you should stand. Bein tanur laguda, then you should do it in a place that's very hot. Put the juice there on your body. Amar Rabbi Yochanan harotze sheichamemenu. And if you want to sweat everything out, you should wrap the person up. Yikachenu b'sadino, and you should wrap the person in a sheet to help make him sweat. Ravacha bar Yosef chashbe. Where Ravacha bar Yosef had jaundice. Avadle Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana did all of these moves, all of these different types of things. Ve'itze, and he healed him. Ve'ilo, if you don't have this method, what should you do? We're about 2/3 of the way down. Ve'ilo, if you don't have that, then laisi tlasa kapize tamra parsiasa. You should take, again, the kapize was that cup. You should take 3 kapize of Persian date to tlasa kapize tekira dinishterufe. You should take 3 kapize of wax that has dripped. Utlasa kapize ahala toleana. Ahala, as we learned previously, is aloe, and this is red aloe. Lishlakinu b'shichra. You should boil it in the beer. Velishten, you should drink it, and that should hopefully get rid of the jaundice. Beilo, and if not, laisi ila bar chamra. You should bring a part of the donkey. V'liglach mitziasa duration. Shave the middle of the head of the patient. V'lishbok le dama me'afuse, and draw some blood from the animal. V'losve areshe, and put it on the person's head. Ulizahir me'ene, make sure it doesn't get in your eyes. Delo list me'luhu, because that could, in theory, blind you. V'ilo, and if you don't have that wonderful option, what should you do? Laisi reisha devarcha, you should find a ram, get the head of a ram, the manach bakivsha, that was in the process of being kavush. Kavush is when you put something into, it's like marinating or salting or pickling, something along those lines. V'lishlok b'shichra, you should boil it in waters, v'lishte, and then you should drink that as well. That will, of course, make you fleshek. V'ilo, laisi davar acher chutrana, you should take a speckled davar acher, which is a pig. V'likre, you should tear it open. V'losve alibe, and put it directly on your heart, and that will help you with jaundice. V'ilo, and if you don't have that solution, then try the following one. Laisi charte mechavtusa de meshre. You should get a row of leeks, and that should hopefully help you. And there's just one story, and we'll end with this for today. Hahutaya de chashbe. There was a merchant who was sick. Amar le, he said to the gardener, Shkol glimay, I want to barter with you. Take my coat. Behavli meishra decharti, give me a row of leeks. So Yoavle, they made the trade. And right, and he ate it. Amar le, then he said back to the guy, I know I just bartered the coat. Do you mind if I borrow it for a little bit? Oshlan glimayich. I wanna borrow your coat. The igne vekali, and I just wanna go take a short nap. So Ichrach gonna be Ichrach, he wrapped himself with it, gonna be, and went to sleep. Kad Ichmam, he was sweating, he sweat off all of the jaundice, he sweat off all of his fever. V'kaman, when he got up, Nafal, Purta Mine, everything fell apart on him, and everything ended up, the coat was withered and gone, but just in one day, the whole thing was over. In one nap, everything fell apart. The halacha lemaisa aspects of yarok we'll hopefully learn a little bit later, which is whether or not you can do a bris if a baby has the category halachically of being yarok. If the jaundice count is too high, so then we push off brisim. Typically speaking, the medical number that we utilize to allow for a bris is the number 14 trending downward. But if it's 14 trending up, we push off a bris potentially. Even though neonatologists are not so bothered by the interplay of the health risks of doing circumcision on a child who has a high bilirubin count, who is jaundiced, afal pikin halacha doesn't allow it. It's not only a medical thing necessarily. It's that the Gemara says that a baby that's yarok is not allowed to have a bris on top. So we're going to stop here. Mir Hashem will pick up tomorrow night with Daf Kuf Yud Aleph, and I plan to learn the blot and a half for tomorrow night, unlike last week. So wishing you all a beautiful night.